the purpose of our budget.
With all due respect, you do understand our federal budget is $2.5 trillion in
Reclaiming
debt.
my time, though.
I know, but our values, we can't have values where we
you don't get to just interject, Mr. Chairman.
You know what? I think you've already spoken, so
I
you're
have
out
not
of order.
spoken on this. I borrowed on somebody else's time.
All right, go ahead.
I borrowed somebody else's time, and I will speak.
Well, speak. You all have put our
It
country in
does-
debt.
does
Kids
reflect
are
value.
graduating from
You're
college.
about to put our
with
country in
debt.
$4 trillion more than
I
that.
don't.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also want to speak in favor of this amendment. We're trying to keep politics out of certain parts of the federal workforce, and for the reasons people have said, this is important, but I also want to add,
I'd like
represent many of
to point something out that our Democrat colleagues know this, because they did reconciliation before when they were in charge. And, you know, it may be hard for some of the freshman Dems to understand, but this is not a policy debate. That's not what reconciliation is. This is a budget process. And so for the American people watching at home, our Democrat colleagues are sitting here trying to score points and spread more lies and divisiveness about Republicans in order to spread more garbage across the country. But this is about budget, Mr. Chairman, and this committee is trying to do serious work, and we need to stay focused on budget, and that's for the American people. And it is very serious that's what we remain focused on here in our work on oversight. And the Democrats know that provisions must be carefully crafted because they did it before, and it has to be scored by CBO to be included in this budget bill. And that's what we're trying to do, Mr. Chairman, and I just wanted to point that out for the people watching at home so they are not swayed by this entertainment today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Mr. Lynch.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say our federal budget reflects our values. When we fund the VA, so it's not just about numbers. It's about the mission and the purpose of our budget.
With all due respect, you do understand our federal budget is $2.5 trillion in
Reclaiming
debt.
my time, though.
I know,
I'm just saying,
but our values, we
reclaiming my
can't have
time.
values
Mr. Chairman,
where we
you don't get to just interject, Mr. Chairman.
you know what? I think you've already spoken, so
I
you're
have
out
not
of order.
spoken on this. I borrowed on somebody else's time.
All right, go ahead.
I borrowed somebody else's time, and I will speak.
Well, speak.
this
You all have
budget
put
does
our
reflect
country
values.
in
It
debt.
does
Kids
reflect
are graduating from
You're
college.
about to put our
with
country in
debt.
$4 trillion more than
I
that.
don't think you all could find $1 billion in savings. You don't care about the Congressional Budget Office scores because you don't
Mr.
care
Chairman,
what anything
reclaiming my
costs. You
time.
just want to spend
Reclaiming my time.
hard-working American taxpayers' money.
I asked to
Give
restore
him
the
5
time.
minutes. You can talk all you want. I want everyone in America to see how much
Mr.
opposition
Chairman,
you all have to.
You're out of order. You're out
get
of order.
fiscal
Your own
here.
chairman,
Go
and you're
ahead,
out of order.
Go ahead.
Ms. Crockett?
Yes, please, because Maxwell took us to church. Push the button. Push the button. That is the name of the sermon. Hallelujah. I appreciate that because, honestly, you know, the one thing that I hear in Maxwell, I appreciate that you have been traveling the country and actually listening to people. I appreciate Melanie talking about getting out, listening to people. I've had an opportunity to get out and listen to actual people. And the one thing that I hear is that they ain't following no rules. That's the only thing I hear, is that this administration has not been following any rules and been breaking everything. And so it is weird that we would hide behind process when we are talking about doing good, but to do bad, to fire workers, yes, let's do that. To decide that we are going to try to jerry-rig and do this situation around birthright citizenship, to decide that we are going to try to just write out the Civil Rights Act in the form of an executive order. That I can go on for days about all the things that really have not been a part of the rules, that have only brought about harm. In fact, I still don't understand how or why Elon Musk was allowed to do anything that he was allowed to do. And honestly, I would argue that he was not allowed to do any of the things that he did. And no one argued for any procedures or rules then. So I applaud you, Ms. Stansberry, again, and thank you, Reverend Maxwell, for the sermon.
And if you would
today.
yield back.
I will yield it back to you,
I want
sir.
to add on, because you just brought something up, Rosanna Crockett, that reminds me that our colleagues are also saying that we can't vote on this because it doesn't have a CBO score, and because the CBO has not told us the impacts of it. And as a representative in the United States Congress, if you need a CBO score to know the impact of Social Security in your district, if you need a CBO score to know the impact of Medicaid in your district, food in your district, housing in your district, Medicaid in your district, then you need to go back out and speak to the people in your district. I yield back.
Any other members seek recognition?
I yield to Representative Crockett.
I just want to be clear, if anybody actually wants to know the impacts, we have it specifically in Georgia 14 as it relates to what's going to happen to Medicaid in Georgia 14. 111,000 children under the age of 19 and 20,000 seniors over the age of 65 will be impacted. As it relates to those that are dealing with food assistance, it will impact 99,000 people in that district. Oh, sorry, I was trying to help.
Any other members seek recognition? Ms. Crockett?
Yes, I just wanted to thank the gentlelady for her amendment. And I was curious because you already kind of preempted the arguments that would come from the other side as it relates to saving money. We do know that Elon had a contract that he was planning on entering into as it relates to Tesla vehicles, do we not?
Yep.
And last time I checked, that contract was somewhere around $400 million.
As I understand it, yes, with Department of Defense.
Okay, and to be perfectly honest, I think that you were being kind of kind in this amendment because they are only prevented or precluded from service within the executive branch. But we still have other branches of government where they can still do stuff, huh?
Oh, yep.
So you actually left a lot of leeway for someone to even do more. So even if Elon wanted to go somewhere else, he could, just couldn't be here. In addition to that, there is this thing about liability, and this really excited me as a practitioner because I think people were wondering, why is it that Elon isn't being sued? Because Elon is committing so many heinous issues as it relates to violating, and we still don't know, and I don't know when we will know because it seems like we're not doing oversight over that right now to better understand how much damage he has done as it relates to our privacy and our information. But it has this liability portion in here. So somebody like him who just happens to be the richest person in the world would actually be able to be liable in a personal sense, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Instead of, say, him being able to hide behind the shields that normally protect you because you are doing something, quote unquote, on behalf of the government.
Yes.
This would also, I mean, this committee is supposed to be about waste, fraud, and abuse. So if there's any abuse or fraud, this would absolutely preclude that or any abuses that are taking place with people that are, say, self-dealing and coming in, wrecking everything, and then stealing all our money, right?
Absolutely right.
I think it's an amazing amendment, and I support it. Yes, do you mind answering a few questions for me?
Yes.
Out of curiosity, you talk about them violating this law, and I'm curious if most Americans understand what you and I understand, is that in violating someone's civil rights, constitutional rights, we are actually costing this country a lot of money. Because whenever we get a break-o back, baby, they gonna get sued.
Oh, 100%.
So literally, your amendment would actually save us money in the form of, listen, you either get these savings that are already written in that are gonna harm people to the tune of cutting down $1.8 billion in direct spending and $4.3 billion in discretionary spending, over 10 years. But when we look at it, though, if we can hopefully hold a rogue administration in check, that will limit how much money we may be on the hook for going forward if you have an administration that continues to violate people's civil rights, their constitutional rights, and even now, so many of our workers' rights are being violated, and that is risking so much of our treasury, because when somebody gets a lawyer that decides that they won't bend the knee to this administration and instead will stand up and do what's right based on what's in the Constitution, that's going to cost us money in the long run anyway, ain't it?
No, 100%. And it's that, and it's also the fact that this administration is paying foreign governments to imprison these people. And so, you know, I remember hearing on the campaign trail the president ranting about sending money overseas, sending money to other places. It looks like he has a problem with us expending resources to ensure that we stop the spread of preventable diseases so it doesn't reach America, but he doesn't have a problem with us sending money to imprison people whose constitutional rights have been violated.
No, you're absolutely right. And honestly, we also need to make sure that we are conducting effective oversight over that. Because as we spend money, whether it is with a prison that we have right here on our soil, whether it's a prison that we contract with, we still are the ones that have to oversee and make sure that people's rights are not being violated. And frankly, I want to say thank you to those of you that spent your own money and went to check up, because it doesn't seem like we're getting any reports. In fact, there were a lot of people, as we saw Senator Van Hollen, who also went over. There are a lot of people that didn't even know if Abrego was alive. And it's my understanding that when y'all went over, they didn't even want to let y'all in. So I don't know how it is that we send money. And you know, like I know, that as it relates to the money that we were sending to foreign countries for USAID, we would oftentimes take congressional delegation trips to see what is going on. How are you spending this money? Is this an effective use of our resources? But it seems like we don't want to conduct any oversight over what they doing with these folks that have had their due process rights violated. Thank you so much for this amendment. I really do appreciate it. I would say that Mr. Kassar has laid this out really plainly. You know, there used to be a time in which one of the mottos of the Republican Party was this idea that y'all were the party of law and order. And I really think that it's very clear that it's anything but when we have amendments that literally just say follow the law. I mean, right now, one of the things that we hear over and over and over about why it makes sense to throw people out of this country without any due process is because you are just saying that they broke the law, not that they had an opportunity to defend, not that we have any proof that they broke the law, but your word is enough to literally exile somebody and send them to a prison where they are doing God knows what. But if we have a court that has found that this man has broken the law, it would be wise, if you really believe in law and order, to say that we will not continue to enrich the richest person in the world with our tax dollars, especially when we're talking about the fact that we're trying to find savings when we know for sure that he has broken the law. So I appreciate Mr. Kassar, because this isn't about partisanship. This is about right versus wrong. And honestly, it's just about good old common sense. I think that's the one thing the American people are wishing that we had right now in government, is just a little bit of common sense. And it only makes sense that we would not continue to send somebody $8 million a day or even more money than that, knowing that they literally are breaking the laws the laws that we wrote. I'll yield.
Does any other member seek recognition? Seeing none, the question is now on the...
Briefly, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This is an amazing amendment brought by the brilliant, gentle lady out of Pennsylvania, because one of the things that we consistently hear every time we start one of these hearings is that the Republicans had a mandate, and that is why we ended up with Donald Trump. And I can tell you that as I traveled the country warning them that what is happening was going to happen, people would say things like the price of eggs are so high. And so this amendment specifically deals with issues around the consumer price index. So let's talk about the price of eggs, because for whatever reason, we've yet to have a hearing on the price of eggs when that was really the one big thing. And I remember the big guy that's in the White House saying that he was going to reduce the cost of eggs on day one. But what we see is that the national average price of eggs in March of 2025 was $6.23, a 6% increase from the previous month, a 60% increase year to year, and USDA said egg prices could climb 41% this year. When we start to talk about things such as our energy, in March, natural gas prices increased 3.6% and electricity prices increased 9%. Fuel and oil prices increased 0.8%. Utility gas services increased 2.5%. The national average for a gallon of gas is currently $3.17, nowhere near the $1.98 that President Trump claimed last week. I just want to make sure we get the facts out there. And finally, the other area that we typically talk about that really impacts everyday working people is housing. When we look at shelter prices, which measure the cost of housing, rent, lodging away from home, and owner's equivalent rent, it rose 0.2% in March. In February of 2025, home prices were up 2.9% compared to last year, selling for a median of $424,000. The number of homes sold was down 5% year over year. Listen, we are in a crisis. And they are pretending that the solution is going to be cutting everything, that those of us that make this country actually go is the solution. Right now, we're cutting jobs as it relates to the federal government. Right now, because of the failed policies around tariffs, we know that we are looking at losing plants. They said that was going to bring plants. They just announced that we had 2 auto dealers that were going to shut down approximately 40,000 jobs. As they then go after NIH, we know that in the state of Alabama, the largest employer in the state of Alabama is the University of Alabama. They are looking at losing jobs because they won't have research dollars. The only thing that they are doing is hurting us. It is the reason, if we're going to talk about numbers and mandates, it is the reason that the only person in recent modern times to have the lowest approval ratings at their 100-day mark is the same person the first time they were in and now this time. It is time for us to get serious and talk about what will grow our economy, what will bring more money in, what will make sure that people can move up from working poor to middle class and maybe even reach this higher level that so many of y'all listen to, this upper echelon, this rich level, because that is what is supposed to set us apart in this country. We are supposed to live in a country where everyone has an opportunity to go from rags to literally riches. And so I am asking my colleagues to start looking out for the people that elected them. And this is one way that we can do it, by supporting this amendment of Ms. Lee. And with that, I will yield.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. First of all, I obviously am supporting what the Oversight Republican Committee is doing here for this entire process. But I did want to speak to Mr. Garcia. Mr. Garcia, please let it be known, if you would like to do a discharge petition banning insider trading for members of Congress, I will happily support that. I think that it is disgusting that people do that. I share Mr. Higgins' sentiment, and I think that a majority of the American people want that. So I'd be happy to support that. We can get the ball rolling. Discharge petition away on that, please. Thank you.
Well, if I can respond to that, I appreciate that, Representative Luna. I agree with you.
Gentlelady yield.
Much, Chair,
time.
and Mr. Chair, and I do support this amendment. You know, there's a theme that we keep hearing on this side of the aisle, where it seems like we are constantly talking about real people, working people, the people that continue to make this country go. And the idea that we continue to violate people's trust, people that have dedicated years and years of service to us, whether it was in the form of being veterans or whether it was literally just in the form of being a dedicated government worker like my mom. The issue that we have is that we keep pretending in this committee and actually in this Congress that the only way that we can save money is if we go after the people that literally are at the bottom. When I say the bottom, one of the best things that I've seen on social media here recently, said that the top 1% own more wealth than the bottom 90%. The bottom 90%. 1% own more than the bottom 90%. We are talking about this wealth gap that is just going to continue to widen at a time in which every single policy decision we're making is only making life more expensive and making it more difficult for those that are just trying to survive, especially those that work for our federal government. The fact is, we're saying, you know what, we're gonna take away access to resources that you had because we want to save money, while at the same time, as it's been laid out by Ms. Lee and me and others about the fact that the cost to eat is going up, the cost to get to work is going up, the cost to put a roof over your head is going up, the cost to put clothes on the backs of your children is going up, all at the same time we're saying, and we are going to give you less, we are going to take away from you. This is not what makes us America the Beautiful. And so I think that this is an opportunity to do what's right. And if we want to start talking about how we get out of debt, we can start with the top 1%ers and maybe let the 90%ers continue to at least just try to survive in this very difficult environment. With that, I will yield.